All right, that's an earlier presser that was given by President Uhuru Kenyatta from State House here in Nairobi. The picture on your screen right now is live from Bomas of Kenya. IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati currently giving an address. Could we listen in?
Of the Election Operations Committee of the Commission, where she worked diligently and was driven by no other purpose other than the love for her country and wanting to see democracy thrive in Kenya. She's one of our finest brains, and it's very sad that we could not provide an environment for such minds to find full expression of their work without fear of their lives. This development and others make it pertinent for me to address you today. I address you first as a Kenyan, as a parent to Kenyan youth, as a lawyer, and lastly as a national returning officer presidential election. As a Kenyan, I'm very proud of the strides this country has taken over the last decade. Unfortunately, when you have something, it's easy to take it for granted. Just like a person seated inside a fast-moving jet does not realize how fast the jet is moving, many inside this Kenyan jet do not appreciate the development that Kenya has gone through since the dark days of our recent past. I address you as a lawyer because I chose this noble profession in order to defend the law at all costs without fear or favor, and without any form of partiality, come what may. I became a lawyer so that I could defend people who had no one to defend them. And since I started my practice over 30 years ago, that's what I've been doing. Having built a successful law firm, an opportunity came to me to represent the people of Kenya, to ensure that the voice of every single Kenyan was heard as I presided over the elections of the 8th of August this year in my position as the National Returning Officer. With gratitude to God and the Kenyan people that gave me this opportunity, that's why I have come directly to the Kenyan people today, because they deserve to know the state of preparedness of the Commission. I'm under no illusion whatsoever that all will be happy with my decision to come to talk to the Kenyan people directly. But then with the rapid twisting and turning of events between August and now, I turn to you in recognition of the words of our Constitution, Article 1, that all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. I'm fully convinced that the Kenyan people on whose behalf I serve have the power to determine how to move together as one people. As an advocate of the High Court, I hold that strict compliance to the Constitution and electoral laws in organizing the fresh presidential election is fundamental. The Commission has reviewed the Supreme Court judgment and has developed a matrix on its compliance to all aspects of the Constitution and the law. This has guided all the preparations for the elections with the goal of ensuring transparency, verifiability and accountability. In the words of the Honorable Chief Justice David Maraga, an election is not an event, it's a process from the beginning to the end. As such, I've vowed to ensure transparency, verifiability, and accountability in the entire process from the beginning to the end. Fellow Kenyans, we are faced with a dilemma as a country, one between the status of operational preparedness and the political environment for credible elections. The technical, operational, and logistical arrangements for the elections are on course. The Commission has constituted a fresh presidential election implementation team, which is overseeing the management of the new election. I'm therefore confident that from an operational angle, we are ready for the elections of 26 October as directed by the Supreme Court. While today I want to confirm to you our full technical preparedness for this election, I want to state categorically that I shall not go down in history of this country as the National Returning Officer that plunged the country into a further crisis than I found it. It's already painful for me to be on record as the chairman of the IEBC that presided over a presidential election that was nullified by the Supreme Court. I've made this point on numerous occasions to my colleagues at the Commission. I've made several attempts to make critical changes, but all my motions have been defeated by a majority of the commissioners. Under such conditions, it's difficult to guarantee free, fair, and credible elections. Without critical changes in key secretariat staff, free, fair, and credible elections will surely be compromised. I therefore call on the staff who have been adversely mentioned to step aside to allow this project team to function without interference. We can still salvage the situation if we put our country first. The expectations Kenyans have on me are very high, yet I cannot move forward with a divided commission. Before the 8th of August election, the commission amicably worked devoid of any divisions. I cannot move forward when presidential candidates refuse to put their personal interests aside and for once serve the country. I took this job to make Kenya better, not to draw it to a crisis. As a victim of the 2007 post-election violence, I will not sit at the helm of the commission as we plunge into possibly a worse situation than what we had in 2007-2008. As a lawyer, I cannot continue to be pushed by majority commissioners to accept legal opinions that serve partisan interests and are not grounded in the Constitution and the law. In the least, I find this as intellectual dishonesty for which my professional training demands that I abhor. I would rather bow out with my name intact and my head lifted high than be part of a process where personal interests dwarf the interest of the nation. I realize that my actions in this noble office will define me for life. My actions will become my legacy and the reference point not only for my life, but that of my family. I'm therefore not ready to sacrifice an eternal legacy for short-term gains that will sear my conscience. Our economy is hurting. The investors are watching from a distance as we wrangle. Our churches, temples, and mosques are filled with anxious Kenyans praying for a peaceful, fair, free, and credible election. Our neighbors are watching, praying that we do not go over the cliff as we almost did in 2007 and 2008. The international community is watching with bated breath, hoping that the country pulls itself together to avoid further destabilizing the Great Lakes region and the Horn of Africa. I appeal to leaders and supporters of the main parties, the Jubilee Party and NASA coalition, to forge together towards a political dialogue that will help restore the dignity, genuine independence, and respect for our institutions. As such, as the referee of this contest, I'm extending an open invitation to the candidates to a meeting that I'll preside over so that they can talk. Once the Kenyan people see that their leaders are talking and are putting Kenya first, then we can douse the tension in the air. Politics should not make people enemies. It is only in primitive societies that divergent views lead to enmity. If we cannot disagree and remain friends, then the foundations of our friendship are shaky. We are the hope of Africa, and we must display this in every aspect of our existence. The fact that we disagree does not mean that we are enemies who will allow our supporters to kill each other. It's truly time for the candidates to stop thinking like divisive politicians and start putting Kenya first. Without this, what example are we showing the next generation? If we don't curb this mess, I fear for the future, because a new generation that comes will perfect the intolerance for the divergent views and will plunge us to the birthing of a nation that the founding fathers will not recognize. Once there's a political agreement as a result of dialogue, when there's a genuine commitment to let the Commission work independently, When all the commissioners and staff truly commit to serving the country rather than partisan political interests, and when we work together to create a conducive environment for Kenyans to express their sovereign will, then I can truly be confident of the possibility of having a credible presidential election. Only then can I commit to serve as the National Returning Officer in order to deliver a free, fair, and credible election. As the referee, I want to issue a stern warning to the players of this game on all sides that they should stop all attempts to interfere with the process. Failure to do this will result in consequences, as I've made up my mind to uphold the Constitution and the will of the people of Kenya, regardless of threats, intimidation, and pressure. No one side is absolved from this, and that's why my warning goes to all parties involved. Let my commission and I do our job, and we shall deliver. Interfere as we have been doing, and we shall get stuck as a country. Anyone who truly loves this country will not want it to be destroyed by the ambitions of a few people. I love this country, which is why I've chosen to address you today. I'll not allow anyone to destroy this country as long as I'm the referee of this contest. Let me close by reminding all of us that peace is the end result of all things being done in an open and transparent manner. It's the result of the winner and the losers understanding why they won and why they lost without their confidence in the process wavering at all. Peace is what we get when losers have faith in the transparency and fairness of the process and get inspired to work harder next time. Peace is what we get when the supporters of the losers are satisfied that the process was fair and transparent. Peace is what we get when the winner did not have to help the process. Peace is what we get when we embrace true democracy, where a nobody can become somebody without knowing anybody. If Kenya burns, it will be because we have not addressed these issues, and because we have created an Orwellian society where some are more equal than others. Never forget the fact that the people for whom it burns all have the resources to relocate their families abroad in a minute. The people who will suffer are the innocent people of Kenya, whose lives would have been permanently altered because of the inability of the people they look up to as leaders who have refused to dialogue. When we do things right, we'll get the right things. I know that there are elements who would love nothing more than to hear me announce my resignation at this point. In reality, that will be the easiest thing to do, but we all have to put our country first, and that's why I'm determined to make this country work. Ironically, the very people, the political leaders that are supposed to build the nation, have become the greatest threat to the peace and stability of the nation. And so today, let me be very clear that I'm giving a yellow card to all the political leaders in this country. I'll not tolerate the threats on my staff anymore. I'll not tolerate the interference in the commission anymore. Kenyans are paying a lot of money for this election. And as their custodian, I will not let the money of the Kenyan people or the development partners go to waste anymore. Fellow Kenyans, this is a true state of the commission today. I thank you very much. God bless Kenya. God bless all of us. Thank you.
Do you still have the confidence of your commissioners, Mr. Chairman?
I have to go for a meeting.
There are pertinent questions.
The
Kenyans are seeking answers to.
write-up will give you the answer.
Could have put out a statement